we're getting there. We're finally like, we feel like and once we've done it, it's kind of like, now how to do it.
Today we're in Tokyo, Japan, speaking with female millennial entrepreneur Francesca Jong. I'm really interested in hearing your pre-entrepreneur to entrepreneur journey. So where did it start?
I mean, I guess I've always worked a desk job, I'd say. I studied media and communication, so I came out of university and sort of fell into a job where I was just doing copywriting, and I don't know, I've just never really enjoyed working just 9 to 5 for someone else. And I think I feel like I could challenge myself a lot more, and I feel like I work best when I'm in charge. So I really have always been interested in like taking on something where I sort of run the show and I decide and I make I call the shots, I make the decisions, and yeah, I think I wanted to find something that suited me a bit more, that actually was my passion and like where my interest lied, and something that I could do where, it sounds really bad, but something where I didn't have to climb to the top, where I could just start. So yeah.
That sounds good. You don't have to do as much work if you don't need to. So where did that lead you?
I guess so. It kind of led me to. I've always sort of had it in the back of my mind, as I said, that I wanted to run and do my own thing. It was just waiting for the right opportunity as to what that was. And I guess it sort of came about when, like, I've always had a strong interest in food. And I've always, I studied media and communication, so my background's always been film and media. But I also have a really sort of like hobby, I guess, as a hobby around sort of food and eating. And I've always sort of wondered, how can I sort of bring that into like my professional life? And I guess the opportunity came about when my mother and I were talking, and we sort of discussed the idea of running our own food tour company. We sort of felt like there was like a big gap in the market, and we previously had been on a food tour in Auckland, which we thought was a bit average. And I guess, yeah, like it just sort of came together really nicely. Like once we started talking about it, we got really passionate about it, and I realized like this might be it. Like this might be sort of the calling that I was looking for. And it sort of just went from there. Yeah.
So was there any story behind food tours? I mean, I get it that you had a not so great experience in Auckland, but how did it turn? I mean, we're sitting in Tokyo, Japan, right? And you have this business with your mother. There must have been a slight story in the background between this all happening and evolving and your passion for food. Was it in particular sharing the food? I mean, what are the details, I guess, I want to understand that.
Guess really it was just like that my mother has the knowledge and I guess I have the business ethics, really. I mean, in terms of why I'm in Japan now is like a completely unrelated like factor of what happened. It was more, to be honest, it was more like I left for Japan for another career move, and then my mother actually left her job and sort of decided like she wanted to do something else, and we kind of got talking over like Skype, and this sort of idea kind of came together, and it's sort of like terrible timing because I'm here and she's there, but at the same time we're like, we don't want to sort of postpone until I get back to New Zealand. We're very much like, once we got talking and we're really passionate about it, we just sort of, the ball started rolling, and it still worked very well even knowing I'm here and that she's there. And I think why it was food tour specifically was because it's just something that we think as a business sort of plan can work. I mean, she's a very good cook as well, and we talked about maybe the idea of like doing food, like cooking classes and stuff like that. But we just thought in terms of like what's available in the Auckland like what's available in Auckland to do and like what people are interested in, I think the food tours just sort of clicked for us.
Mm-hmm.
It just sort of made sense, and it was something that we think we can do well,
Sure. And is the food tour, are they targeted at Auckland locals or tourists, or what's
definitely both? Like we're very big on promoting it to both locals and to tourists coming to visit Auckland. I mean, that's definitely our big sort of selling point, that we want to appeal to both, because we find that many tours at the moment mostly appeal to tourists coming to visit Auckland and wanting to try food that Auckland is, specifically renowned for. But for us, we word it that we also want to appeal to locals that whether you've lived here a month or 20 years, like we have something to offer you as well.
So how are you planning on doing that?
Well, my mother is she has probably about 30 years experience of living in Auckland, and she just knows every sort of food business there is in the city. And there are so many places that people just don't even know about because they're sort of in the suburbs, and I don't know, she's just really worked on it, I guess. And that did cross our minds. We don't want to, obviously, because the food tour we'd been on sort of tried to advertise the same thing, and it said, we're going to take you to places you may not have heard of before, but actually every place we've been to we had heard of or had been to. So I think just through like doing a lot of research and seeing what we had available and what was going to work well on the tours, I think we've sort of just created something really unique and really great. And my mother's put it to the test even with like good friends of hers who she would also consider foodies, who hadn't even heard of half the places that we had available on the tour. So yeah, I think it's just a lot of she's just the perfect person for that kind of thing. Like she really knows, and she not only does she know the businesses, she really knows the people that run them. And like we were worried when we contacted them, like these businesses, about getting involved, that they might not be interested or it might not be something they can do with us. But every single place has been really excited about it, and I guess it's just a testament to my mother being really great at like connecting with people as well as the food. So yeah.
That's really interesting, actually, thinking about the restaurants also. So typically, your mother will go and talk to a restaurant owner, and then what happens?
Well, actually, predominantly it's stores rather than restaurants. We have been interested in looking at the restaurant side of things as well, but mostly for the food tour, we focus more on the stores because, I mean, they can offer products that people can take away with them, but it's also I guess, yeah, the restaurants we haven't looked into as much. It's more been a store focus, just because how the sort of tours work. I guess it's just sort of played in well with what we're trying to do. But yeah, the stores have all been really like warm and like receptive.
Excited.
Yeah, really excited
that you're bringing people over.
Totally, exactly. We're bringing in business, but we're also yeah, because that's the problem with half these stores is that no one knows they even exist because they're so niche and little, and but also, and it's funny because like there's, for example, one of the places they go to is like a Russian dumpling place, and and the only people they usually get through are relatives or the Russian community of Auckland, which is great, but a lot of these businesses don't know how to or don't market to a bigger audience. So this is like a great opportunity for us. It's works for both parties. Like we get to bring in business, yeah, and then they get to get the word out more. Yeah.
Okay, so there's stores, and so you go, and so I'm thinking I've done a wine tasting tour and an olive oil tasting tour. So we just go in, taste some of their products, and then usually you buy something.
Sure.
Is that sort of the setup then?
Yeah, I mean, as well as that, we also really think it's important to understand the business, and every place has a story. And especially Auckland's really interesting because there's so many immigrants in Auckland. It's and it's really interesting to hear sort of how they came to be and how they sort of got set up and why they got into the business as well. So we don't want to just take people to shops and be like, oh, here are some great products, you should buy them. But we want to also be able to let people in on the sort of history and the culture of like how this food came to be, and and yeah, I think it's like a full experience of both the food and the eating as well as the sort of cultural history of it as well.
That's really nice, actually, because we were just there in Auckland, and I did get the sense that there were people from all over the place, but majority I thought were maybe more on the English side or European. So it's really nice to hear that there's Russians and other people, and then there's that community that you can tend to and tell their story.
Definitely.
So it's telling a story of people's food business is important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just really interesting as well, and it kind of gives that really nice community feel to Auckland as well, to know that these businesses are around and they they're doing some really exciting, interesting things as well.
Why is it important to you?
I think it's just part of a community. It's just being part of living in Auckland. I mean, Auckland's still a city of 1 million people, but I think the best food is one that has a bit of like depth to it as well. As well as having, do you know what I mean? Like it has history to it as well. And we love to buy local. We love to buy organic. We love to buy free range. Like that's definitely a family sort of mantra. And I think we like to sort of, and I think that's sort of where the best food comes from, is people that really care about what they're making, and you sort of have like a personal connection with the food that you're purchasing.
I love that. So food with a story.
Yeah, exactly.